of 12. You don't appreciate the little things until you have to go without them, he said. It was quiet for a moment as he drank. Where was I? Oh yeah. We got on the tracks that ran right beside the road at the county line and started walking toward Lockhart. As lucky as we'd been finding Bert and her helping us, it seemed we were doomed to pay for it with the run of bad luck. First, the tracks were in bad shape. I mean, the actual tracks were fine, but the gravel and ties between them were uneven, and it made for some very slow going. Even if we tried to pick up the pace, the bumpiness would make things fall off the big cart. We even broke some of the mason jars of food Bert had given us. We only made 6 miles that night, plus my boots started falling apart. I taped them up with duct tape as best I could, but the coup de grace was that one of the tents fell off the wagon at some point and none of us saw it. It was the big one that leaked, but we still needed it. We didn't notice until we started setting up camp that morning. Jeff and I backtracked and found it almost back to where Bert had dropped us off. By the time we found it, I'd worn through the duct tape on my boots. I hadn't taken the roll with me, and since the boots were so sloppy on my feet, I had blisters you wouldn't believe when we finally got back to camp. We had to rest for 2 days until my feet healed enough for me to walk. The next day we traveled, we only made 5 miles, but that got us to Lockhart. We needed to head south, but there were no tracks that ran north and south, plus everyone was sick of the tracks. We decided to try the roads as long as we could stay out of the cities. I was a little nervous about all of us traveling on the roads, so we started scouting ahead. Each morning, 2 of us would take as much food as we could carry and go 7 or 8 miles down the road. We'd find a good campsite, hide the food, then go back to the group, and all of us would walk to the new camp as soon as it got dark. Only one time did scouting keep us out of trouble, but it was worth it. Plus, having 100 pounds less to carry at night really made a difference. We weren't making a lot of distance each day, but 7 or 8 miles every day beat what we had been averaging. So what day did you get to Lockhart? Mark asked. Mike checked his little notebook. October 14th. I don't understand. Lockhart's only 50 miles from here. You should have been here by the 21st at the rate you were going. That's true. But remember, I said that scouting kept us out of trouble once? Yes, Mark answered. Well, we crossed into Bexar County on the 18th, and guess what we saw on our scouting trip for the 19th when we got to the Wilson County line? The National Guard roadblock, the younger brother replied. You got it. Dad and I were the scouts that day, and we saw them take a group into custody. We watched until almost dark, and they took every person and group who tried to cross the line and hauled them off somewhere. We went back to the camp and decided that we wouldn't chance getting caught when we were so close. We decided to lay low until we could cross the county line. Why didn't you try going cross-country? Manny asked. We talked about it, and we would have had to try in a day or two because we were almost out of food for the little ones, but we didn't want to take any chance that the guard would catch us and take us who knows where. I see your point, Manny conceded. We found an old abandoned pole barn that looked like it had been used to store hay. It was closed in on 3 sides and offered a little protection from the elements and kept us out of sight. So we set up camp there. It was close to a windmill that worked, so we had plenty of water. We laid low and didn't do anything to call attention to ourselves. There wasn't much game to hunt, but Jeff found a few tree rats and rabbits for us. We saved all the vegetables for the little ones. For the last 13 days, 2 of us made the walk to check and see if the guard had left. It was frustrating to only be a few miles from you and not be able to get here. Yesterday, Dad and Monica saw that they were gone, and Jeff and I decided we'd walk here and see if it was really safe or not. I hoped that once we got here, you all would have some sort of transportation you could use to get the others. Thank goodness I was at least right about that. Mike yawned. Mark looked at his watch. It was now after midnight. Yeah, it's way after midnight. It's 12:52. Sorry about that, Chief. And I'm going to try to do this earlier so that you people who are staying up late every night listening to it can start earlier. I apologize. I talked to one sister tonight, and she said, I'm not getting as much sleep as I used to. And of course, Countryman, he's just, getting more sleep now because he's not listening to the whole thing at one night. I tell people, start at the beginning, pace yourself, 2 or 3 chapters a night. Okay, sorry. Thank goodness I was at least right about that, Mike yawned. Mark looked at his watch. It was now after midnight. Why don't we all hit the sack and we can finish catching up tomorrow, he suggested. That sounds good to me, Mike answered as everyone nodded in agreement. Sleeping arrangements were made and everyone went to bed. Mark thought that with the worry of his family finally gone, coupled with the fact of how tired he was, sleep would come quickly. However, something wouldn't let him doze off until just before dawn. Good night.